I haven't stopped laughing since Benny died. I shouldn't have told you that. It's true though. 3 weeks ago last Sunday, Benny died. And I haven't cried once. Just laughed. I haven't mourned, I suppose. Deirdre. She's been to counselling classes and all that whatnot. She says to me, "You should own your grief." As if I can give it away. One day soon, perhaps, I'll have a good weep and get it all out of my system. But just for the moment, there is nothing in my system to start with. There is this big, empty space inside me. And I seem to find everything funny. Lots of people have said, "I didn't know Benny had AIDS." And it's really annoyed me. I've spat back more than once. He didn't have AIDS. Just because he lived with another man, you assume that he had AIDS. And you're wrong. It was a heart attack. The idea of a gay man dying of anything else other than AIDS amazes people. It doesn't go with their idea of gay life. You could get hit by a bus and they come to your funeral with red ribbons and collecting boxes. Anyway, yes, it was a heart attack. We'd spend hours in the garden. I mow, he weeds, which is a good arrangement because I can't tell a dandelion from an orchid, let me tell you. And then we thought we'd treat ourselves to thoroughly modern Millie. On the video, the DVD. Because Benny does the best Carol Channing this side of Carol Channing. And he was getting himself ready for Jazz Baby. And I was getting ready for a good laugh. Because no matter how many times he did it, I still found it funny. And then he fell over. I thought, this is new. He's never done that before. And I found it really funny, I'm ashamed to say, until I realized what had happened. I went deadly calm. Glacial, as they say. I made him comfortable, neither of us saying a word, although he was still breathing and had the usual sparkle in his eyes. And then I called the ambulance man. Clear, calm, and efficient as I could be. And when I got back to him, he was dead. I switched off the TV, but the silence was horrible, so I turned it back on again. That wasn't respectful, said Deirdre later. Having that Julie Andrews and Mary Tyler Moore and that James Fox prancing about while Benny's lying dead on the floor. But I explained to her that the noise made me comfortable. And then she explained some psychological stuff so that I wouldn't feel guilty. I wish she didn't, because it hadn't occurred to me to feel guilty until then, and now I do. Anyway, the ambulance men arrived, and they had Benny sorted in a trice. And they were ever so kind and gentle with me, that I offered them coffee and shortbread. They hadn't the time, but they'd been welcome. One of the ambulance men pretty boy. Lovely lashes. He took one look at the TV and said, "Oh, I'm sorry I'm missing this." So I told them they could come and borrow it sometime. He never came round, of course. I shouldn't have told you that. I didn't laugh then, but I've laughed a lot since. For example, the funeral parlour. I'd never been to one, so I was feeling a bit nervous. But then again, I thought, as it is Benny, I'd go and take a look at him one last time. And I'm so glad I'm on my own, let me tell you. First of all, I met at the door by this huge man with a tailcoat and a face as long as next week. The spit of Boris Karloff. And he's got this really deep and depressing voice. "Just a moment, Mr. Edwards." And he leads me to a side room, and I'm smiling already. Two women go into the chapel there, and two men with tailcoats come out. And then the women come out, dust in their hands. And then I'm ushered in. There are these big mahogany doors, and Boris Karloff pushes them open. And in I go feeling dead nervous. Up at the back, on the floor, there's a crucifix with a Virgin Mary statue, chipped, just dumped on the floor. Not at all artistically arranged, and completely missed by the spotlights coming from the ceiling. I suppose they must have a selection of handy artifacts for each religion, and they pull them out sharpish for each visitor. In front of them, and this time, perfectly lit, there's the coffin with Benny in it. And this is where I start to laugh. It's horrible, I know, but it's true. You see, Benny could pull the funniest faces when he was in the mood. And he had me in stitches from morning till night when he was in the mood. And what had the laying out people done? They'd only buggered about with his dentures, so it was pulling a face, hadn't they? He looked so daft that I started to snigger. Boris Karloff was still hovering in the doorway. So I pulled out my hanky and started making sobbing sounds. "I'll leave you with him, sir." And I was so relieved when he was gone. But it got worse. You see, either side of the handy artifacts were these stereo speakers. One of them with a wicked hiss. And over the speakers was playing what I can guess was a Bontempi organ. I almost expected to hear an electronic drum beat with marimbas and castanets. And what's the tune? It's only Abide With Me, isn't it? Da 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 da. There was a moment's pause, and I was just about to get my face straight enough to leave. But what happens? The tape machine goes ka-chung, ka-chung, ka-chung. 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. And that was just too much for me. wish the wall was laughing that much. I laughed so much that my eyes started streaming out. I covered my face with my hanky. I made a run for it. You may stay longer if you wish, sir. But I just sobbed. No, no, no. I made a run for the door. The two women I'd seen earlier were outside eating sandwiches. Awful smell of fish paste. As I passed them, they zoomed up. One of them saying to the other, I'll get rid of that Madonna now, Florence. The next one's Presbyterian. As I said, I hardly remember the service. I remember wanting to cry, as I was convinced that would prove to Benny's horrible family that I missed it, and that I loved it. But no, nothing happened. And I'm sure they thought the worst. I must have said the prayers, sung the hymns, read the little speech I'd written with lots of jokes in, but I didn't cry. I would have remembered that, surely. And now the whole half hour is nothing other than a blur. It's almost as if I read it in a magazine while I wasn't really paying attention. The other day, Deirdre was here again, trying to help me putting the crockery in all the wrong cupboards. And she says, it's a bit like a man losing his wife, isn't it? And I said, no dear, it's exactly like a man losing his husband. And then she says, did either of you feel as if you had the female role in this relationship? I said, no dear, neither of us felt the need to scrape an uneaten dinner into the pedal bin while the other one was out with his mates. Not that Benny was perfect, let me tell you. He'd never miss a meal, and he was always kind and attentive. And he never went off me in the bed department, as I thought he would, one day when we got older. But he did play the field a bit, and I didn't like it. He'd pick up other guys on his afternoons off, and then spend the whole evening grinning to himself as if his school was a winning goal for England. It made me furious. But I knew I couldn't stop it. He just liked men. Different men. Men who were a challenge and had to be worked for. I couldn't play hard to get to save my life. Not with him. There came a point that I wish he had AIDS. So he had to stay at home and be nursed by me. I had this image of him, dying, and saying to me, I love only you, Morris. I wish I'd never gone with anybody else. And me saying, I forgive you, Benny, because my love is bigger than this. And then I pulled myself up short. I just wish Benny dying. What a disgusting thought. And at that moment, I realized that I'd rather have Benny alive and adulterous than dead. And from that moment on, I accepted Benny with all his weaknesses and peccadillos. I never complained. But what a horrible thing to have thought. It makes me ashamed to think of it. I shouldn't have told you that. pity it's not thought tasteful to video a funeral. I wish I had a tape of Benny's, because I can't remember it. Bits before, bits after. But not the really important middle bits, actually in the crematorium. I can remember arriving. Benny had specifically asked people to dress cheerfully, and not one of his family dressed in anything other than black. Come to think of it, they're such miserable lot that they probably wear black to christenings, weddings, and anniversary celebrations. The whole family of the living dead. Expensive black it was too. Beautifully cut suits, silk ties, shiny black frocks and hats with veilings. And as a coordinating feature, all the ladies wore dark black streaks down their faces. Lesson number 1. You can't exude hypocritical emotions wearing waterproof mascara. God, makes me laugh. I looked at the Frida, worst of the lot. I thought, who's invited Chichi the Panda to this party? I could almost hear Benny say, ooh, what does she come as? His favorite line, that one. And every one of the buggers hugged me, which was horrible. Being hugged by someone who hates you is the worst, I can tell you. And I kept wondering if I'm being photographed hugging them. I had the strongest feeling that they wanted to be photographed and be seen hugging me and feeling all compassionate and noble. Bloody hypocrites. Most of them hadn't seen Benny for years, or ever since they found out that I wasn't just his lodger. And they were putting this great show of grief. Their Frida, great damn big black hat, like a Pirelli tire, trying to look Sophia Loren, but coming all across Barbara Cartwright. She came wading up to me. Oh, he was my favorite cousin. And I snapped back. Is that why you came to visit us so often? Knowing fully well as she did, that you'd never crush the threshold of 84 Galston Place in all the 15 years we lived there. And that shot her up. She looked confused, poor cow. And I couldn't resist twisting the knife. And he's not left anything in his will for you. The little he had will come to me, which happens to be true. I felt a bit ashamed of myself saying that to Frida. I was quite a bit annoyed by what a convincing show of grief she was putting on, when all I could do was to crack jokes and camp about. The funeral parlor is all sort of red and green, you see, like one of those fast food restaurants. Overheated, funny smell, full of the people. And when I mentioned that to Bernard and Cyril, we couldn't stop laughing. Bernard and Cyril, they're a right pair. They'd only turned up in their full leather regalia. Chaps, jackets, boots, caps, the lot. We knew Benny had asked for colours, said Bernard, but we couldn't resist it. They got some funny looks, I can tell you. One of Benny's cousins got stuck with Cyril at the shindig afterwards. And in a desperate attempt to make a conversation, She asks him, "So what sort of motorbike do you ride?" Cyril puts on his campus voice. "Ooh, no dear. I've never been on one. They frighten me to death." I laughed my head off. Every time Bernard saw me, he'd point at my shirt and say, "Nice blouse, Morris." And it made me happy. Well, sort of. You see, I had my sky blue silk on, the one Benny really liked. One day I had it on, and Benny said, "You're my blue sky, Morris." And I pretended to gag, with my fingers in my mouth. I wish I heard it. That was one of the only occasions that Benny was being all romantic and had gotten spoiled it by being embarrassed and mucking about. Maybe I had it. Maybe he really knew how happy I was. I'll never know. It was nice being around friends. We had a good laugh. Same jokes, but with slightly smaller smiles and a sad look in everyone's eyes. The hugs and kisses were real too. Benny's brother, Colin, came for a chat, which pleased me. We'd always got along well, ever since he found out that we both support the same football team, which really surprised him. I can tell you. Just because I'm an old Nance doesn't mean I don't enjoy a game of football, I said. Anyway, 22 beefy fellas running around in shorts have a certain visual appeal for a man of my leanings, I told him, and he roared. We've been friendly ever since. I only started chatting to Colin when that sour-faced wife of his came stumping over. Deportment has never been her strongest point, and she began to drag him away on one spurious pretext or another. "I'm sorry," he said. "You go," I said. "Don't get into trouble over me." And he said, "I'll be in touch, Morris." And he has. Every couple of days or so, he's called me. He sounds just like Benny over the phone. That ought to hurt. But it doesn't. I quite like it. But he has called me. I'm impressed. I can hear that sour-faced wife of his radiating disapproval over the phone. But I don't refer to it at all. She'd probably put a stop to it one day. Cow. I talked to the priest about that. About Benny dying. The priest. Alan, his name is. He's one of us. Looks cute in jeans. Alan said that it's quite common to wish a loved one's harm. And that it is the dark side of my love for Benny which was responsible for the way I felt. And though it wasn't nice, it was quite human and forgivable. Alan has been a great help to me in the past 3 weeks. And he didn't even bat an eyelid when I asked for Benny's coffin to glide into the flames to the tune of "Send in the Clowns." Everyone I know is word perfect on it. We could have sung it together. Except Cyril, of course. He wouldn't take to a Sondheim song if that Kylie Minogue sung it. Still, there's no accounting. I expect to cry soon. Something daft will hope it set it off. An old picture or a film on the telly, and something completely unexpected and a really awkward time. I tell you though, if that Deirdre asks me one more time to have a good cry, I'll smack it one. Because she thinks that's all I need to make myself feel better. And she's wrong. It might make me feel a bit better, I know. But it would take a lot more than a cry to make me feel really, really better. I feel like one of those sailor dummies at the seaside in a booth. Drop a penny and I fall about laughing. Laughing about what? About nothing. That's how I feel. An empty dummy laughing at nothing. And no matter how many times I cry, that's not going to solve that. Is it, Deirdre, you daft bugger? I shouldn't have told you all that. Still, you've got to talk to someone. You've got to.